Have you ever blurted out, "Nobody around here ever listens to me"? If so, you're not alone. The truth is, family communication isn't a static trait. It's a living process, shaped by repeated patterns and mutual influence, what therapists call interactional dynamics. Imagine these as software algorithms running behind the scenes, setting up expectations and default modes. Over time, routines like who disciplines or who comforts congeal into unseen, powerful family structures. Now, you might be thinking, if it's all just patterns, can't we just hack the code? Here's the catch. Once roles are set, people get stuck using only a small fraction of their relational bandwidth. Let me tell you a story. Think of the first time a child cries, or an in-law visits. It's unpredictable. But soon, habits form. Without intervention, families start running on autopilot. And suddenly, no one feels truly heard anymore. But here's your actionable insight. If you recognize these patterns, you unlock flexibility. The first step to being heard is spotting the script you're acting out and daring to improvise a new line. Let's get concrete. Every family, like any social system, is made up of parts what therapists call subsystems. There's the parent-child dyad, sibling units, and of course, the whole clan. Think of boundaries like firewalls. They regulate the inflow and outflow of emotional energy and information, protecting autonomy while fostering connection. Now, here's the conflict. Boundaries can be too porous or too rigid. If kids can interrupt adult conversations anytime, boundaries blur. But if no one shares, walls go up. You might wonder, which is better, open or closed? The answer isn't binary. Healthy families allow contact, but also protect individual space. Imagine a house where doors are open but rooms are respected. So, to grow, map your family's boundaries. Where are you two enmeshed? Where are you shut out? Understanding, this is your blueprint for change. Patterns aren't just habits. They're like neural pathways in your relationships, forged by repetition. The more often a parent yells while the other stays quiet, the deeper the groove. This is called complementarity, a technical term for how our roles fit together, often reciprocally. One parent becomes the enforcer, the other the comforter. Over time, you use only a sliver of your potential connection. Now, you might ask, isn't predictability good? Yes, up to a point. It provides safety. But the conflict arises when predictability turns into rigidity and stifles growth. Let me give you a tip. The moment something feels stale or automatic, pause and ask, is this really how I want to show up right now? Even a small act, like sharing a task or responding differently, can rewire the dynamic. That's the first step toward deeper family listening. Here's a classic challenge. How do you let your child express themselves while still maintaining healthy authority? This is where boundaries become practical, what therapists call differentiation. It's the ability to acknowledge a feeling, I hear you don't want to go to bed, while still holding the line, but it's bedtime. The conflict shows when parents confuse understanding with permissiveness. If you try to convince your child they're tired, as if the rule only counts if they agree, you set up endless debates. So, here's the actionable twist. Separate your child's right to feel from your duty to guide. Acknowledge, then decide. That's how you model emotional intelligence and authority, side by side. Remember, discipline and listening aren't opposites. They're partners in raising resilient, heard children. Picture this. Your child rushes in, ecstatic with a discovery. You reply, Yes, that's nice. But go wash your hands. What just happened? You inadvertently drowned out their excitement with a but. Here's the setup. You want to enforce a rule, but you also want to connect. When you use yes, but, it's like offering a handshake with one hand and a stop sign with the other. The internal conflict is real. How do you balance nurture and control? And the technical term here is validation, meaning truly acknowledging the other's emotion before moving on. Imagine the difference. Try saying, "Wow, what a cool caterpillar." Pause. Okay, now let's wash up. The child feels seen and the rule still stands. Next time you catch yourself reaching for a but, swap it for a pause. It's a subtle shift that changes everything. Have you ever worried that caring too much means interfering too much? When boundaries blur, parents may overinvolve themselves in their children's struggles, preventing kids from building their own resources. Here's the technical side. Boundaries can be diffuse, meaning too open. When parents always step in, children never practice problem solving. If in-laws meddle too often, couples struggle to define their partnership. The conflict is subtle. You want to help, but helping too much stunts growth. Think of a greenhouse with no glass plants get battered by every breeze. Let me ask, are you giving your loved ones enough space to try, fail, and learn? To grow, step back intentionally sometimes. Let others feel your trust in their capability. That's a form of deep listening too. Every family has its triangles. What's a triangle? Technically, it's when two people in conflict draw in a third, whether as confidant, mediator, or unwitting referee. Let me tell you a story. Marshall, a dad, feels replaced when his daughter Paula gets close with her boyfriend. Unable to express his sadness to her, he complains to his wife. Paula, feeling misunderstood, also talks to her mother. Suddenly, the real issue, father and daughter, is detoured through a triangle. The conflict? Triangles diffuse emotional energy, making direct resolution almost impossible. It's like trying to fix a broken circuit by wiring in more fuses. Now, you might be thinking, isn't it normal to seek support? Of course. But beware when triangle communication becomes your default response. To break the pattern, notice when you're triangulating. Then, gently redirect energy back to the original relationship. That's the path to healing and genuine listening. Let's flip the coin. What happens when boundaries are too rigid? The technical term is disengagement, when family members become isolated, emotionally self-sufficient, but starved for connection. Here's the setup. Parents who rarely listen or who are perpetually distracted may think they're fostering independence, but they can inadvertently foster loneliness and insecurity. It's a tricky conflict. Independence is valuable, but isolation chokes intimacy. Imagine a fortress, safe from invaders, but also from friends. Now, you might ask, how do I know if I'm disengaged? Look for lack of sharing, avoidance of time together, or reliance on outsiders for emotional support. Your move. Schedule intentional, undistracted time with your loved ones. Even small acts of reconnection begin to melt those walls. On the other end lies enmeshment, where boundaries are so thin, individuality gets lost. The technical language, enmeshed systems are those where members are overly involved in each other's emotional lives. Here's a scenario. A mother and child are so close that neither has space for separate friendships or interests. It can feel warm like a blanket, but too much warmth suffocates growth. The conflict. Striving for closeness, you can accidentally breed dependency. Children may struggle with autonomy. Parents may feel drained or resentful. Now you might wonder, isn't involvement good? Yes, but only when paired with respect for each person's unique orbit. Think of planets close, but independent. The growth step? Practice letting others handle their emotions and tasks. Support, but don't solve. That's real respect. If you've ever felt undermined by your partner in front of the kids, you know the power of parental unity. Here's the setup. When parents disagree on rules or discipline, children sense the split and push on the cracks. This dynamic is called polarization, where partners drift to opposite extremes. One gets stricter, the other more lenient, each compensating for the other's stance. The conflict? Instead of working as a team, you become adversaries, and the core issues never get addressed. It's an emotional tug-of-war, and everyone gets tired. Here's a hypothetical. I get the feeling you don't agree with my way of handling this. What do you think? Communication and compromise, what therapists call accommodation, are the keys. Your actionable tip: talk it out privately. Decide on your united stance. Present it together. Children thrive on clarity and consistency. Let's go deeper. Why do couples polarize? Here's a technical twist: projection. That's when we attribute our own hidden feelings to our partner. It shows up like this. One partner, afraid of anger, becomes passive. The other expresses all the fury. Over time, you start fighting the parts of yourself you can't accept labeled as your partner's faults. The conflict? You get locked in roles that feel inescapable. The more one resists, the more the other presses. And so on a cycle that feels impossible to break. Now you might be thinking, how do I even notice this? Start by tracking your strongest reactions. Ask, is this about them or about me? Growth comes when you own your feelings and communicate them with vulnerability. That way, you stop the projection and start true dialogue. Ever heard, men are from Mars, women are from Venus? Stereotypes can block real listening. Modern therapy calls this essentialism, the tendency to oversimplify differences. Here's the conflict. By focusing on categories, we avoid engaging with the unique person in front of us. It's a shortcut that leads to misunderstanding. When you say, my partner just doesn't get it, must be a guy thing, you end the conversation before it starts. You're turning your loved one into a type, not a teammate. But what if you approached each other with curiosity instead of assumptions? How would it feel to say, tell me how you see it. I want to understand your perspective. Action step. Challenge your own stereotypes, especially in moments of frustration. Real connection comes from seeing and listening to the individual, not the label. Here's your big takeaway. One person can start a transformation. In family therapy, the co-therapist isn't another professional. It's a family member willing to challenge the status quo. Maybe you're thinking, how can I shift things when everyone else is stuck? The answer: change your script. If you usually blame, try listening. If you triangulate, try direct talk. The conflict? It's uncomfortable. You might get pushback. But neuroplasticity, our brain's ability to rewire, applies to relationships too. One shift, repeated, can ripple outward. Let me ask, in your family, could you be the one to take a different step? The resolution? Even if you can't change others, changing yourself alters the system. Start small. Watch the waves you make. That's the art of being heard and of deep listening. Let's end with concrete actions. Here are a few powerful exercises. Think of them as diagnostic tools for your family's communication health. First, list 3 things a family member does that annoy you. Then, write how they might prefer to be seen. Next time, interact from that perspective. You're using empathy, a key tool in emotional intelligence. Second, identify a family boundary you dislike. Maybe someone's too involved or too distant. Observe your own role in sustaining it. This self-awareness is like debugging your operating system. Third, try to spot the triangles you're in. Are you the outsider? Change your position. Move closer to the overlooked person or activity and see what shifts. Finally, gauge your own distance. Are you enmeshed or disengaged? Experiment with moving a little closer or farther away and notice what resistance or surprises arise. Growth is in the experiment.